What's up guys, this is Voxide, and in this tutorial I'm gonna cover some different techniques and methods that I use when it comes to creating backgrounds for my projects. So as you can see here, this is my initial scene that I have in Cinema 4D, and this will be our exported render inside of After Effects. And I'm just gonna walk you through my process of creating backgrounds. So I'm just gonna start with a white solid, and I'm just gonna add a simple ramp effect to this solid, and let's switch this to a radial. Let's use a blue and a dark color and switch these points around and just get a nice flat color starting point here. Alright, and this will be fine for now. And now I want to use Cinema 4D to actually export some renders and use those inside of After Effects. And here's what I mean. Alright, so if I step back inside Cinema 4D and jump out of my camera, I'm gonna go ahead and for this scene I will add a cylinder, and I'm just gonna scale this up. And then if I press C, I'm gonna make this editable and grab these points at the center here and just get rid of the polygons right on the top and bottom parts, and then scale this uniformly on the Z and X axis. Just scale this down a bit and just try to encapsulate my scene here. And let's go inside my camera view, and I'm just trying to fill out this entire background space for my render region. And this is loading a little slower, but you can see what I'm doing here, and this will be fine. And all I have to do now is pretty much just texture this cylinder, and then use the geometry to mask out only the background portion, and I'm gonna show you how to do that as well. And then I can use this render for my cylinder to export into After Effects, and I'm gonna add a couple of effects there, and let's just see how this will look. So let's go ahead and create our texture for the cylinder actually. So I'm gonna add a new texture here. Let's drop this on the cylinder, and if I go inside my texture and turn on luminance actually for now, and for my luminance I'm gonna go to texture, load image, and I have here a texture of just a circle, or rather a square. So you can see it's this nice high-tech square, and it's a still image. And if you actually want to know how I created this, you can check out my tutorial on high-tech HUD frames, and there I cover some of the techniques that you can use to achieve this sort of look. Alright, so I'm just going to use this texture for now, and let's import this. Alright, and right away I'm not getting anything because the mapping is screwed up. And I can go to my cylinder here, and if I go in my texture tag, I can maybe increase the tiles here until it matches. So let's increase the V tiles, let's try maybe 15, and maybe for U tiles let's try 25. Alright, let's step in our camera here and see how this looks. And close enough. Let's maybe increase the tiles here, and this is completely depending on your preference. Alright, this should be fine. And if I make a quick render now, so I'm just gonna press Ctrl R for a preview render, well, you can see it's doing its thing and rendering out, but I don't actually need to see any of this geometry. I just want to use this as a black fill layer to mask out only the background portion. So what I can do is I have a null object that contains all of my geometry, and I can right click this guy and go to Cinema 4D tags, and if I add a compositing tag, I can set the matte object. I'm gonna turn on the matte object, right, and leave the color as black. And now if I press Ctrl R to create a preview frame render, you can see that our geometry is completely black, and the render is much faster because it doesn't have to process all the materials and reflectivity and all the lights and all that. So this is a quick way to set up any renders that you want to export for further compositing. And let's see what else we can do with this texture in the background. So I know I don't want to fill out this entire background area. I want to sort of fade out my cylinder texture towards the top here. And what I can do for this is if I add a new material, and I'm gonna go drop this material on my cylinder and go to my material settings, and let's turn on the luminance and just add a gradient to this. Alright, let's step outside our camera to see what we're doing exactly, and let's go inside our gradient here and set this to 2dV so it has the proper alignment. And I'm actually gonna invert the knots here because I want the gradient to go the other way around. So this is sort of the result that I'm looking for. Alright, and let's maybe adjust these points a bit, this gradient. Alright, so something like this should be fine. And now if I go to my luminance channel here, and let's copy this texture and disable luminance and go to alpha and turn on alpha, then I can paste the channel here, and if I take a look, well, you can see nothing happens. Let's set this to invert and this should do it. And now if I make a preview render, now you can see that we're using the gradient material as a mask for our cylinder in the back. So this is the technique that I'm using to create more interesting textures, and you can go to your first material, which is the one that has the square texture, and you can go to your luminance channel, and for the texture slot you can use a let's see, you can use a layer for this and try to pre-compose your gradient ramp or any other effects using the layer shader, but I find that you have more control having different material slots for each of the layer that's adding the detail to your initial texture. So using the same technique, I can go ahead and create a new texture slot, and I'm gonna place this on our cylinder. And for this guy, I'm gonna go to luminance. I'm using the luminance channel first because I'm seeing more clearly in the viewport exactly what I'm creating, and then I'm just simply copying the texture from the luminance to my alpha slot. Alright, and let's add a noise for this and go in the noise settings and set this to be a mod noise, and you can see what this looks like. And if I press Ctrl R to make a preview render, you can see that this is way too small, so I'm gonna need to rise up the scale for this. So going to my global scale option here, I'm gonna set this to 2500 and make another preview render. And this is looking better. Let's maybe increase this to 3500. This will be fine, and maybe increase the first relative scale, which is the X scale, and render this. Alright, so this is the look that I'm going for. I also want to add for this layer a bit of animation for the noise, so I'm just going to set the animation speed to 1. This will just add a slow animation similar to how the evolution works inside of After Effects. Alright, and now again, if I copy this channel and turn off luminance, go to my alpha channel, turn on alpha channel and paste my channel here. Now you can see that, well, I'm not sure if you can see that clearly, but it's using this third texture slot to mask out what we previously had with the initial texture and the gradient ramp as well. So let's maybe increase the contrast for this noise, just so maybe you can see it better. Alright, so you can see some of these spots have a lot more brightness than others, and you can see it's cut here in different parts using this noise texture that we've added. And let's just make a render frame, or actually I'm just gonna make a, let's see, let's go to my current frame here and turn off save, just make a nice render. Alright, and let's get rid of the noise texture and make another render. Alright, so you can clearly see here what this noise does, and it just helps to break out the pattern and just create a bit more detail and a much more interesting look overall. Alright, so I'm gonna set this to all frames and save my file and just create a full render for the entire sequence here, and then let's see what we can do in After Effects to make this even better. Alright, so here I am back inside After Effects, and I'm gonna drop my render above my solid layer and below our geometry, and I'm gonna set this layer to screen for now, and let's go ahead and add a tritone effect to this layer. And this is just a quick way to color your layers, Just choose a blue for my midtone here, and maybe let's actually add a curves to this as well and set the tritone below our curves. Just increase the contrast here, or just decrease the overall brightness a bit, increase the contrast, and I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this layer. Let's follow this layer for a bit. I'm gonna set this layer to add, and I'm actually just gonna increase the brightness even more and just filter out only the brightest spots of this layer. Alright, and I'm gonna leave the tritone, and let's add a stylized glow, and I'm gonna duplicate this glow and maybe decrease the threshold for my second duplicate, increase the radius. Let's decrease the threshold for the first glow as well and increase the brightness. Alright, and if I unsolo this, you can see that we are adding this nice highlight, and I'm actually just gonna increase the threshold back and maybe add another layer of glow. So you can see we're adding this really soft glow around some of these highlights, and I just don't want to blow out the highlights for this background as much, but this is the way I go about creating backgrounds for my projects. Alright, and one other thing I like to do usually is add another texture for my layers, and this texture, let's step outside of my camera here, and I'm gonna use a new cylinder for this. So I'm just gonna duplicate this one. Let's hide the previous one and get rid of all of my textures for my second duplicate, and let's create a new texture and place this texture on our cylinder. And this texture, let's go to our luminance channel first. Let's go ahead and use a surface tiles, and let's step inside the tiles here and change this guy to circles 1. Alright, change all of these tiles color to white, and let's maybe increase the grout width maybe, and let's step inside my camera and make a quick render preview. Alright, so this is not what I want. Let's go inside the texture tag here. Let's increase the tiles maybe to 25 by 25. And let's see, I'm gonna need to decrease the tiles on the V. I'm just trying to create a circles tile here, and maybe go inside my texture and increase the grout width maybe. Alright, so you can kind of see I'm trying to create this nice interesting circles pattern here. Let's maybe increase these guys, the grout width, and this should be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and copy our gradient texture and also our noise texture and just copy paste these on top of our cylinder. So I'm using the same textures that I've used for my original cylinder, only for my second cylinder to break up the pattern. And let's actually just readjust the noise a bit, just so it's not the exact same noise that I'm running through my initial texture. Alright, so I'm just gonna go to my movement here and just give this noise a different look. Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and render this sequence out as well. Alright, so back inside After Effects I can import my new render. I'm gonna set this layer to add, or maybe screen. I don't want it to be that bright, and I'm also gonna add a tint to this and just use the tint to give it a blue color. Alright, and you can see how very quickly you can add a lot of detail by combining some textures inside Cinema 4D, and then inside After Effects you can go ahead and just duplicate the layers, add some glows and colors. Alright, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to share with you guys today. Thanks for watching so far. Stay tuned for more tutorials and subscribe. Go ahead and drop a like if you learned anything new, and I'm out.